can we provide the global context in your essay? Who's next? Who has the microphone? All right, Jimin.
Use global data and sources, UN, WHO, IMF.
Right.
Show regional differences.
Right.
Example, climate impact in Bangladesh versus Netherlands.
Right. So if you want to give a context globally, then use sources from established international organizations. So UNHR is a very nice international organization for human rights issues. A lot of you is trying to write the climate change issue, so you can cite a lot of sources from the UN. BBC has, you can even use like news sources from the credible news sources like BBC, like CNN, even the Korean government sources, they're very well recognized. So try to use sources or statistics or reports from the international organization, especially the global ones. The World Bank has a lot of reports, IMF, all these international organizations, and even some national organizations like, UK has like development agencies, like we have like our own development agency as well. So they cover like global topics, so you can use reports from the governments as well. And if you want to actually highlight the global aspects of the topic, try to highlight or display the regional differences. So say, we are dealing with the fast fashion industries. If you want to discuss about the supply chain, you can discuss the situations in like Bangladesh or India. You can actually highlight, compare and contrast the differences or even the similarities like between or among different countries. So that way you can actually describe the global aspects of the issue that you're trying to discuss. All right, and how can we use credible evidence? Who's next? Swat?
Using credible evidence, using academic journal,
Right.
reliable news and reports, avoid blog, social media, outdated info, fact check all claims.
This is very important because you actually access most of your information online these days, right? From the internet. So you really have to find whether the sources or evidence that you are using are credible. And how can we know whether the sources that I'm using are credible? If it's from an academic journal, I think Ian was trying to use the sources from Scientific American. It's a reliable journal. It's a semi sort of journal. But if it's a reliable academic journal, then it's a really good one. And reliable news articles from established news agencies such as BBC, CNN, like KBS, our own national broadcasting agency, So these news sources are credible. And also, I told you the reports from the government, and international organizations, very credible. So if you were to back up your argument with the sources from here, either, it can be like statistics or any like anecdotes or any like analysis or any like explanations, you can actually use the graphs. I like to use graphs from the reports. I can basically copy and paste those graphs to back up my argument. And it's a nice way to actually elongate my essay. But when you actually use the sources, you really have to see and find what kind of authorities, what kind of institution affiliations that sources that you're using are affiliated. This is very, very important. Okay? All right, and counter-argument, I've already done it, so just skip it. This is very important. I don't think you've actually heard about logical fallacies. Who has ever heard about the logical fallacies? No one, right? So a lot of you guys, because you're not trained you've been trained logically, but then like a lot of you guys actually, when you write about the argument, you actually make a lot of mistakes logically. And that's there's a term which is called logical fallacy. And basically, you have a tendency to make an over argument, and there are some typical examples. So I think I just added 4 examples. I mean, there are a lot more than these, but these are the simple cases that you have to give attention to. Who's next? All right. Okay. Oh.
Strawman misrepresenting opposition
Right.
and
Hominem.
hominem affecting the person.
Right.
Slippery slope.
Hmm.
Exaggerating outcomes.
Hmm.
Hasty generalization. Insufficient evidence.
Right. So an example of strawman is basically you misrepresent the opponents or the opposing views. You know, so when you actually write the counter argument, you have to be very accurate and be exact and be specific on the opposing view. Don't try to exaggerate or don't try to misrepresent the opposing views. You know, that's why you have to be quite well acquainted about the opposing view as well if you were to present it in an accurate, exact way. And also, this is a common mistake, not in essays so much often, but when you have an argument, like person to person, a lot of cases people actually attack or criticize person rather than the ideas. You always have to remember that we actually criticize the ideas, not the persons. So the authors of the arguments are separate from the arguments themselves. This is very important, you know. So when we make a discussion or debate or argument, you know, trying to see the other person, especially your opponent, as the person representing the idea. You know, it's not the idea itself, you know. So try to separate the person and the idea, and don't criticize the person. You know, never do that, especially in formal sort of debate context. You always criticize the idea and the arguments that he's or she's presenting. You know, this is an important one. And also, slippery slope and hasty generalization. I mean, they are sort of linked. So you provide like ABC evidence, you know, from reliable sources, credible sources. But when you actually make a conclusion, or when you actually try to recap or make a generalization out of the evidence that you have presented, you don't try to exaggerate or don't try to generalize it too much. So what do you mean by hasty generalization? So say I just found that person A likes sweets, person B likes chocolates, person C likes candies, and we have 10 people in the classroom, right? And I make a conclusion that everybody in the classroom likes sweet stuff. This is a hasty generalization, right? So we haven't figured out the remaining 7 people's flavors yet, you know. So, but a lot of cases, when you make evidence from all this kind of statistics, reports and analysis, from the news sources, try to present as specific as possible of their of the sources that you're mentioning. Don't try to make too much exaggeration or too much generalization. So this is quite important, but you guys are, still college students, so I think at this stage, don't try to think about logical fallacies too much, because you are actually bound to make mistakes anyway. So I told you that my teacher used to tell me that don't be afraid of writing too much. We all make mistakes, and through the mistakes we actually learn. Our fallacies are our mistakes. So you just learn. You just aware that these fallacies exist, but don't try to overthink about them. Just too much afraid of them, of making mistakes. But we know that these fallacies exist, and we tend to commit these fallacies. So I know that I'm prone to make these overgeneralization and stuff like that. But I try to minimize them as possible. But don't try to get concerned too much as to make you sort of afraid of writing. Okay, language and style. Who's next?
Use of formal of the title. Avoid biases. biased, or emotional language.
Right.
Use transitions and direct sentence structure.
Right. We are actually writing a persuasive argumentative essay. So in this essay, you're trying to be as objective as possible. And for this purpose, you're not writing a literally sort of essay. You're actually writing a persuasive one. So that's why it's very important that you maintain that objective tone and not try to use emotional language. So try not to express your emotions too much. But actually in presentation, it's better to express your emotions because it actually makes the people more engaging to your presentation. But in the writing, try to use as objective or non-emotional language as possible. And also use transition. I told you about on the contrary, in contrast, however, furthermore, first, second, third, these transitional verbs or phrases effectively so that you can actually make a coherent whole essay. Alright, so referencing and citation, this is important, but I think you actually, I'll actually let you know when you give me the first draft. So I would recommend you to give me the first draft as much as as soon as possible, so that I can give you as much feedback as possible. So if you submit to me early, then I'll let you know how to do the reference and stuff. So referencing, I recommend you to use APA. If I don't think I will have time to go over this. So after you finish your essay writing, you can actually ask ChatGPT to change the referencing in APA style, but we can actually do it later. Alright, so the final checklist. Who's next?
Is the thesis clear and debatable?
Right?
Are arguments supported? Is global scope evident? Or sources cited and writing polished?
Right, so after you finish the first draft, try to ask these following questions to yourself. It's a persuasive, argumentative essay, so a lot of Korean students, a lot of Asian students are not, very prone to make controversial statements. But this is something that I really want you to learn, because a lot of cases you're bound to make an argument anyway. So having that clearly set argument is very important. And as I emphasized again and again, you basically have to have your thesis statement nicely stated in your introduction and supporting arguments to back up your thesis statement in the body paragraphs. And in the conclusion, again, you have to restate your thesis statement, but in a paraphrase, a slightly different manner. Yeah, so it's an argument. So for others to agree with your argument, they have to have some supporting details, why your argument is actually good, So that's why you have to have supporting details in the body paragraphs. And it's supposed to be an argumentative essay on global issue. So that's why it should not be confined to any one specific country. The more countries the issue is affected, the better. And so in the body paragraphs, you can actually compare and contrast of different countries, cases of different countries. So the more countries that you can include as a supporting details, actually the better. Right, and then the sources, very important because you use a lot of sources from the internet. So try to see whether the sources that you're using are credible. Alright, so the final term exam is going to be an essay writing. I was actually thinking that we can have a 5-minute presentation on the writing, but I think it's going to be too much of a hassle for you, so I tried to minimize it. So this is an assignment for you. So choose one global issue. You can actually use the topic that you choose today, or you can change. And the length of the essay is from 1,000 to 1,200. And basically include one thesis statement, 3 arguments, and one of the 3 arguments can be counter-argument, but try to include the counter-arguments in refutation and global example. So global examples, analysis reports or like data from the international organization or the government reports, and also the case studies of like different countries. Use APA citation, and that's gonna be the assignment is due on the Wednesday 14th week, the last week, the last class. But because it's a essay, so if you submit to me earlier, your first draft earlier, I'll give you feedback as much. So if you want to get as much feedback as possible, then you can just hand it to me early, and then I'll just give you like as much feedback as possible. Any questions? All right.
Grammatical mistakes and spelling mistakes will be counted?
Yeah, for the final draft. Yeah. It shouldn't be handwriting. It should be in the you can actually use the Word doc, and then you can just submit to me. Okay? But in hard copy. All right. All right. Any question? All right. So well done. I think you guys look very tired today.